In the history of Shark Tank, only a handful of entrepreneurs have done the impossible, getting all 5 sharks to invest in a single company at the same time. In 2013, Charles Yim walked into the tank with a device that promised to end drunk driving forever. He walked out with a cool $1 million. But while the sharks thought they were investing in a life-saving revolution, the dark truth was far more disturbing. This wasn't just a bad investment, it was a masterclass in deception. Today, we're uncovering the story of the man who successfully tricked the Shark Tank. Welcome to Dark Facts. The pitch, the perfect illusion. Charles Yim was the ultimate founder. He had a tech background, a prior exit, and a product that solved a massive social problem, the breathometer. It was a small device that plugged into your smartphone's headphone jack and gave you a police-grade blood alcohol reading in seconds. Kevin O'Leary loved the numbers, Mark Cuban loved the tech, and Barbara Corcoran loved the mission. By the end of the pitch, the sharks weren't just bidding, they were fighting. Charles secured $1 million for 15% of his company. It was the highest valuation deal in the show's history at the time, but the sharks didn't know they were buying a paper tiger. Offers flew across the stage in rapid succession. The sharks interrupted each other, sweetened terms, and pushed aggressively to secure a stake in the company. Charles stood calmly in the center of the chaos, appearing completely in control. To viewers at home, it looked like the textbook example of entrepreneurial success. Brilliant founder, disruptive technology, unstoppable momentum. By the end of the negotiation, Charles walked away with an unprecedented deal. $1 million for 15% of the company, the highest valuation in Shark Tank history at the time. It looked like a landmark moment for the show. A revolutionary product, a visionary founder, a billion-dollar future in the making. But behind the polished presentation and million-dollar smiles, the illusion was already beginning to crack. The sharks believed they were investing in proven police-grade technology. In reality, they were buying into a carefully constructed narrative, one built more on marketing and hype than scientific reliability. Breathometer wasn't the revolutionary safety device it claimed to be. It was a paper tiger, impressive from a distance but dangerously hollow underneath. The red flags, vacations, and Instagram. Shortly after the money hit Charles' bank account, things started to go dark. Mark Cuban later revealed that while the company was supposed to be scaling, he was watching Charles' Instagram feed in horror. Instead of being in the lab, Charles was allegedly on lavish vacations, partying in exotic locations, and living the life of a billionaire before he'd even shipped a single reliable unit. When Mark asked for updates, he was met with silence or excuses. The sharks' $1 million wasn't building a company, it was funding a lifestyle. They had invested believing their money would fund research, manufacturing, and product development. Instead, it looked like the company's founder was spending more time curating a celebrity lifestyle than building a functioning business. Behind closed doors, frustration grew rapidly. Mark Cuban reportedly pressed Charles for concrete updates on production and testing, only to receive evasive answers, excuses, or complete silence. Meetings were postponed, questions went unanswered, promises never materialized. What made the situation even more alarming was the contrast between the public image and the internal reality. Customers were already beginning to complain about unreliable readings and defective devices, yet the founder appeared more focused on projecting success than fixing the mounting problems. The glamorous Instagram feed became symbolic of something much larger, a founder intoxicated by hype, attention, and newfound wealth, long before the company had actually earned it. To the sharks, the realization hit hard. Their $1 million investment wasn't fueling innovation. It was funding an illusion. The company they thought was scaling into a life-saving tech powerhouse was beginning to look dangerously unstable, and the man they trusted with their money no longer seemed interested in accountability. The product, a lethal failure. The dark heart of this story isn't just the money, it's the danger. The breathometer was marketed as government grade and FDA registered, but when customers actually got the device, the results were terrifying. Independent testing showed the device was consistently understating BAC levels. Imagine a user blowing into the device seeing a 0.04%, thinking they are safe to drive, when they are actually at a lethal 0.10%. The device wasn't preventing drunk driving, it was potentially encouraging it by giving users a false sense of security based on buggy, uncalibrated hardware. The breathometer wasn't merely a defective consumer product like a buggy app or broken smartwatch. Its entire purpose was tied to public safety. People used it to decide whether they should operate a 2-ton vehicle at high speed around other human beings. A small error wasn't an inconvenience. It could become fatal. Critics argued the device created the exact opposite outcome of what it promised. Instead of preventing drunk driving, it may have encouraged it by giving users false confidence backed by flawed technology. And perhaps most disturbing of all, the problems reportedly weren't hidden deep within some unforeseeable technical flaw. According to later findings, the hardware suffered from calibration and reliability issues that should have been caught long before the product ever reached the public. Yet the marketing machine kept rolling. The promises remained bold. The branding continued to project scientific precision while the underlying technology failed the people relying on it most. The illusion of safety can be more dangerous than no safety at all, and that was the terrifying truth at the center of breathometers' collapse. The fall. The FTC steps in 2017, the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, finally slammed the door shut. They filed a complaint alleging that Breathometer made hyperbolic, unsubstantiated claims. The company was forced to offer full refunds to every single customer, totaling over $5 million in sales. The revolutionary device was ordered to be disabled, turning $1 million investment into a pile of plastic e-waste. But Charles Yim didn't go to jail. In fact, he did something even more surprising. The punishment was brutal. Breathometer was ordered to provide full refunds to every customer who had purchased the device, covering more than $5 million in sales. On top of that, the company had to notify users that the product should no longer be relied upon to estimate blood alcohol levels. The once revolutionary gadget was effectively rendered useless overnight. Devices sitting in glove compartments and desk drawers across the country instantly transformed from symbols of futuristic safety into worthless pieces of plastic and circuitry. For the Sharks, it was a humiliating collapse. Their biggest deal had become one of the show's most infamous failures. What they believed was a groundbreaking public safety company turned out to be a startup built on inflated claims, unreliable technology, and a founder who had lost their trust long before the regulators arrived. And yet, the ending wasn't what most people expected. The pivot, Mint, and the second trick. After the breathometer collapsed, Charles didn't hide. He launched a new product called Mint, a device to measure bad breath and oral health. He even managed to partner with Philips to bring it to market. But history has a way of repeating itself. Mint was eventually delisted from Amazon for, you guessed it, not working as advertised. It was the same playbook, a flashy pitch, big promises, and a product that couldn't survive the scrutiny of real-world use. Customers soon complained that Mint didn't consistently work as advertised. Reviews questioned the reliability of its readings, with users reporting inconsistent results and features that failed to match the company's ambitious claims. The same pattern that haunted Breathometer seemed to be emerging all over again. Eye-catching marketing, grand promises about cutting-edge health technology, and a product that struggled when confronted with real-world testing. Eventually, Mint was reportedly delisted from Amazon amid growing concerns about performance and customer satisfaction. For many observers, it felt less like a new chapter and more like a rerun of the same story with different packaging. The names had changed, the branding had evolved, but the formula remained eerily similar. The current truth. Where is he now? You would think that after tricking the most famous investors in the world and being shut down by the FTC, Charles Yim would be blacklisted from Silicon Valley. But the dark truth about venture capital is that it's often about the pitch, not the product. Today, Charles Yim is a founding partner of a $50 million investment fund. The man who cost the Sharks $1 million is now in charge of $50 million more. It's a chilling reminder that in the world of high-stakes business, the truth is often less important than the story you tell. Mark Cuban calls the breathometer his worst investment ever, not because he lost money, but because the idea was so good and the execution was so dishonest. What do you think? Was Charles a genius who got lucky, or a calculated scammer who knew exactly what he was doing? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more deep dives into the dark side of business, subscribe to Dark Facts. I'll see you in the next one.